Cameras were rolling. The crew was silent, and then it happened. The tension that had been building behind the scenes for weeks finally exploded into the open. Kendra Robinson and Rasheeda Frost, two of the most recognizable faces in the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta franchise, went from smiles to shouts in a matter of seconds. No one expected what unfolded, and the chaos was so intense that production had no choice but to slam the brakes on filming. The lights stayed hot, the mics picked up every word, and the cast and crew were left frozen in shock. According to insiders, this wasn't just a petty disagreement. This was years of jealousy, resentment, and whispered accusations boiling over. One source close to the set whispered, "It was like watching a volcano erupt. You could feel the heat from across the room." And they weren't exaggerating. Voices cracked, insults flew, and what should have been another routine shoot turned into a scene that fans may never forget. The shocking part, cameras kept rolling. Every glare, every trembling hand, every gasped word of disbelief from other cast members was captured. Viewers won't just be watching a reality show anymore. They'll be witnessing the moment where reality itself seemed to split in two. Fans are already in a frenzy, demanding to know, what triggered this? Was it jealousy over business success, personal digs about family, or something darker, something no one saw coming? All we know is that emotions ran high, the family was left divided, and producers are scrambling to decide just how much of this chaos they can even air. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear goes beyond drama. It's betrayal, broken trust, and the kind of behind-the-scenes war that rewrites everything you thought you knew about Rasheeda and Kendra. Got it? Here's part 1 of the main body, about 2,000 words. Written in flowing dramatic narrative, no headings, no notes, just ready-to voiceover script. The air on set was thick, a kind of silence that didn't feel normal, the kind of silence that comes before something shatters. Crew members were standing off to the side, gripping their clipboards and walkie-talkies a little tighter, their eyes darting between the cameras and the women in the middle of the room. Rasheeda was already pacing, her heels clicking against the polished floor, her voice sharp even when she hadn't said anything yet. Kendra sat with her arms crossed, her expression calm but her jaw clenched, like she was daring Rasheeda to try her. Everyone knew these two had been circling each other for weeks, tension rippling through every scene they shot together. But no one imagined tonight would be the night it all erupted. It started small, almost too quiet to notice. Rasheeda muttered something under her breath about loyalty, about people forgetting where they came from once the cameras were on them. Kendra raised her eyebrow and leaned forward, her tone cutting through the room like a blade. "You talking about me? Because if you got something to say it to my face." That was the spark. That single line was enough to turn whispers into fire. Rasheeda whipped around, her eyes blazing, her voice rising so fast the mic pack crackled. "You damn right I'm talking about you. Don't sit here acting like you built this from nothing. You walked in off Jock's name and now you think you can disrespect me." The crew stiffened. They knew this wasn't in the script. This wasn't planned for drama. They were watching something raw, real, and dangerous unfold in front of them. Kendra didn't flinch. She stood up, slowly, deliberately, and the whole energy in the room shifted. She was taller in heels, her stance strong, and when she spoke, every word came out heavy, dripping with rage she had clearly been holding back for a long time. "First of all, don't ever disrespect my name like that. Don't act like you put food on my table. I'm a lawyer, baby. I worked for everything I have, before Jock, before this show, before you." She jabbed her finger in Rasheeda's direction, and the cameras zoomed in instinctively, capturing the rawness of the gesture. Rasheeda laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of humor. It was sharp, mocking, the kind of laugh that cut deeper than words. "Lawyer, please. You out here acting like you got the moral high ground while you sitting on set gossiping and throwing shade. If you really about your career, what you doing here chasing cameras?" Gasps echoed around the room, from cast and crew alike. Even Jock, who had been sitting nearby scrolling on his phone, looked up suddenly, his eyes darting between his fiancée and his longtime friend like he wasn't sure whether to intervene or let it play out. He knew better than to step in too soon. Rasheeda's voice rose higher. "You think people don't see it? You using Jock's name to stay relevant? Without him, you wouldn't even have a chair in this circle." Kendra's face darkened. She stepped closer, their heels nearly touching, and whispered, loud enough for the mic to catch. "And you using Kirk's name to cover the fact that without his mess, you'd be nothing but a boutique owner on Instagram begging for likes." The room froze. Even the cameramen exchanged looks, uncertain if this was about to spiral into something physical. Rasheeda's hand twitched, the anger visible in every line of her face. Kirk himself, sitting in the corner like he wanted to melt into the background. Muttered under his breath, "Man, this gon' get ugly." But it was too late. The floodgates had opened. Rasheeda threw her arms wide, her voice booming across the room. "I built Frost Enterprises with my own hands. Don't you dare discredit what I've done. You don't know the half of what I've sacrificed to keep my marriage, my business, my name intact while people like you come in here thinking they can snatch a storyline." Kendra smirked, a dangerous smirk, and tilted her head. "Storyline. Baby girl, you are the storyline. Every season, same tears, same drama, same man cheating. You recycle your pain for a check, and then you mad at me because I don't have to do that. You mad because I don't cry for sympathy? I don't beg for forgiveness. And I don't need a pity party to stay relevant." The words cut like knives. Jock rubbed his forehead, his voice barely a whisper. "Here we go." The crew shifted uncomfortably. One producer raised his hand, signaling the cameras to keep rolling. This was gold, the kind of explosive drama that built empires. Rasheeda's face flushed, her voice breaking into a scream. "You don't know nothing about what I've been through. You don't know about the nights I cried. The nights I held my family together when everything was falling apart." She was shaking now, her hands trembling as she pointed at Kendra. "And you stand here, acting holier than thou, judging me like you perfect. Let's not forget, half the city know Jock been running around on you too. So what does that make you? Strong? No, sweetheart, it makes you just like me. The difference is I own my truth. You hiding behind a law degree like it makes you untouchable." The tension cracked open further. Kendra took another step forward, her voice lower now, but so sharp it sliced through the chaos. "The difference is, Rasheeda, I don't build my brand on embarrassment. I don't wear my husband's dirt like it's fashion. You think people respect you, but half of them laughing at you, waiting for the next scandal so they can drag your name. You call that owning your truth. I call it selling your dignity." The words landed heavy, and even the crew members who had been trying to stay professional found themselves covering their mouths, whispering under their breath. Emotions were running so high it felt like the air was vibrating. For a moment, Rasheeda's eyes glistened, and it almost seemed like she would break down. But then she straightened her shoulders, pulling herself taller, and with a trembling but steady voice, she fired back. "Laugh all they want. I'll keep cashing these checks. I'll keep standing on my brand, because at the end of the day, I made Rasheeda a household name. With or without Kirk, with or without anybody else. And you? You just started. One slip, one crack in your facade, and it's over for you. That's why you pressed. That's why you scared. Because deep down, you know you can't last in this game like I have." Kendra's face hardened, her jaw locking tight. But before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the side of the set. Someone had knocked over a light stand, too distracted by the fight to notice where they were walking. The sudden sound startled everyone, breaking the intensity for just a second. Jock jumped up, his hands out like he was ready to grab either woman if it went too far. "Yo, chill. Both of y'all. This ain't the way, man. Y'all gon' make this something it don't need to be." But neither Rasheeda nor Kendra looked at him. Their eyes were locked, their words sharper than ever, and the crew could sense that this was just the beginning. The kind of clash that doesn't end with one argument. This was war, and the battlefield was bigger than the set. The family was already divided, and the fans, once they saw this footage, would be too. The set was trembling with tension, but neither Rasheeda nor Kendra blinked. Jock's voice still hung in the air, pleading for calm, but it was like a whisper against the roar of two storms colliding. The cameras stayed locked in place, producers whispering furiously into their headsets, telling everyone to keep rolling no matter what. This wasn't just a scene anymore. It was the kind of raw explosion that people talk about for years, the kind of moment that rewrites the entire story of a show. Rasheeda stood tall, her face a mask of fury and pain, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Her chest rose and fell as she tried to steady her breathing, but her voice betrayed the fire in her veins. "You think you can stand here and call me a joke? You think you can belittle everything I've fought for? I've taken blows harder than you could ever imagine, and I'm still here, stronger, louder, and no one least of all you is going to erase me." Kendra smirked, her calm demeanor only pouring gasoline on Rasheeda's rage. She stepped forward, her heels clicking in defiance, her voice slicing the air like a blade. "Stronger, louder please. You've turned your humiliation into a paycheck. You've made a career out of crying on camera while your husband plays you in public. And you expect me to respect that? I don't need to sell my dignity for airtime, Rasheeda. I built mine on my own. And that's why you hate me. Because I'm everything you wish you still weren't, touched, unshaken, respected." The words hit like thunder, and Kirk's head dropped lower. He rubbed his temples as if he could somehow disappear from the battlefield that was now his wife and his castmate. Damn, man, he muttered under his breath, but his voice carried just enough for the mic to catch it. Rasheeda whipped her head toward him, her eyes blazing, and the entire room knew what was coming. "Don't you dare sit there like you're innocent," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger in Kirk's direction. "Don't you dare act like you're the victim. You are the reason I have scars. You are the reason they laugh at me. You are the reason every room I walk into, I can feel the whispers. You think I want to live like this? You think I wanted this storyline? No, but I had no choice because of you." The set gasped as the words ripped through the air. Kendra crossed her arms, her chin lifting higher, her eyes never leaving Rasheeda. "And yet you stayed," she shot back, her tone colder than ice. "You stayed, Rasheeda. You had every chance to leave, to walk away, to build your life without him, but you didn't. You stayed because you'd rather be pitied than be alone. And that's why no one respects you." A ripple of shock moved through the crew. One sound guy shook his head, whispering to another, "She didn't just say that, did she?" The cameraman next to him whispered back, "Oh, she said it. And she meant it." Rasheeda's entire body trembled. She threw her purse to the floor, the loud smack echoing across the set. Her voice cracked, but her words were sharp enough to cut through steel. "Don't you dare tell me why I stayed. Don't you dare judge the decisions I made to protect my family, to protect my kids, to protect a legacy I built from nothing. You don't know the nights I cried. You don't know the weight I carried while still smiling for the cameras. You think strength is walking away? No, strength is staying when the whole world tells you to run." Kendra leaned in closer, her face inches from Rasheeda's, her voice low but fierce enough for every mic to catch. "No, Rasheeda, strength is knowing your worth. Strength is not letting a man break you down and then pretending you're a queen while you wear his betrayal like a crown. You can scream all you want, but deep down you know I'm right. And that's why you're shaking right now. Because I'm the one thing you can't fake, proof that women don't have to live like you to survive." The room froze. Kirk's face was pale, Jock's fists were clenched at his sides. And even the producers leaned forward as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. Rasheeda's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She straightened her shoulders, raised her chin, and forced her voice into something steady. "Laugh at me, judge me, drag me all you want. I'll still be here when you're gone. I've lasted longer than anyone thought I would. I've carried scandals bigger than yours will ever be. I am Rasheeda Frost, and you're just a chapter. I'm the whole damn book." The silence that followed was electric. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed across the set as a light stand tipped over, knocked down by a crew member too distracted to notice where he was walking. The noise jolted everyone, breaking the spell for just a moment. Jock finally stepped forward, his voice loud and desperate. "Yo, stop this right now. Both of y'all. This is going too far. This ain't what we came here to do." But no one listened. Rasheeda and Kendra were locked in battle, their words tearing through the room like gunfire. And then, unexpectedly, another voice cut through the chaos. Carly Red, who had been silent in the corner, suddenly shouted, her words echoing off the walls. "Enough. Both of you sound pathetic. You think this makes you strong? You think this makes fans respect you? Nah, this makes y'all clowns. The whole world's gonna drag you for this tomorrow. Social media will eat you alive." All eyes snapped to Carly, the sudden intrusion like another bomb going off. Rasheeda spun around, fury blazing in her eyes. "Shut your mouth, Carly. Your life is the biggest circus here, and you got the nerve to lecture me." Kendra turned to, her voice dripping with venom. "Exactly. You've switched sides more times than the weather changes. Don't stand there pretending to be the voice of reason when your whole career is built on betrayal." Now it wasn't just to women. It was three. The air was thick with curses, accusations, and rage, the set descending into pure chaos. Crew members shouted for calm. Producers waved their hands frantically, but it was useless. The fight had taken on a life of its own. Rasheeda's voice cut above the noise, louder than anyone else. "Let me make one thing clear. I am the queen of this show. I have been the backbone of this franchise for years, and no one, neither you, Kendra, nor you, Carly, will ever replace me." Kendra screamed back, her voice cracking with intensity. "Queen, no. You're a broken queen, a relic of the past, holding on to scars like they're jewels. Your reign is over, Rasheeda. The new generation is here, and I am its voice." The words exploded like dynamite. Even the crew who had promised themselves they wouldn't get emotionally involved were covering their mouths, whispering, "Did she really just say that?" Kirk sat frozen, his face buried in his hands, while Jock shouted again, his voice almost breaking, "Enough. Stop this before somebody gets hurt." But the women were past the point of return. The war had begun, and nothing, not producers, not crew, not even the men standing helplessly by, could stop it now. And this was only the beginning. The temperature in the room seemed to rise, as if the lights had inched closer, as if the set itself wanted to hear every word. Carly's interruption was a spark in dry brush. A PA dropped a coil of gaffer tape, the roll thudding and spinning away under a table. But even that sound felt swallowed by the raw noise of three women trying to outshout gravity. Rasheeda took one swift step toward Carly, then checked herself. Fingers flexing at her sides like she was squeezing the heat out of her own pulse. "You want to talk about clowns?" she said, voice low and iron. "You build friendships like sandcastles and then cry when the tide comes in. Don't stand over there and pretend you're the conscience of this show." Kendra's laugh was quick and humorless. "The only thing consistent about you, Carly, is your inconsistency." Carly tilted her head, unbothered in a way that felt almost practiced. "And the only thing consistent about both of you is that you want the whole stage to yourselves. Newsflash, fans are shocked. But not the way you think. They're tired. They want honesty, not recycled tears and courtroom speeches." Jock finally moved between them, palms out, trying to make eye contact with anyone who would give him a fraction of trust. "Yo, enough. We got a production to finish. No one is going to win a medal for the loudest voice tonight." But the set had entered that dangerous orbit where nothing obeyed gravity anymore. Kirk stood, adjusting his jacket like it might remake his spine. "We ain't gotta do it like this," he murmured, to no one in particular, to everyone at once. Rasheeda looked past Jock and found Kendra again. The eye contact landed like an elbow. "You wanted your moment, right? You wanted to prove you're above it all. Congratulations. You dragged yourself right into it." Kendra's shoulders straightened. "No, I'm here to clean it up. I'm here because I'm sick of pretending your pain is the price of admission for everyone else." A camera operator whispered into his headset, tight on their faces, both in frame. "Don't lose either of them." Another producer, tucked behind a stack of apple boxes, whispered, "If they walk, follow. If security steps in, stay wide. If someone cries, push." The room shifted as if inhaling. Then, from the far end, where the monitors were stacked, a voice called, "Cut for reset." But it was a suggestion more than an order, a paper shield against a thunderstorm. No one cut. The argument didn't recognize directors. Carly moved 2 steps back, enough distance to watch, enough distance to strike again if she felt like it. The crew parted a little, and in that seam of space, the fight sharpened into a 2-person scene. Rasheeda squared her stance. "You think I don't know what people say about me? I know. I hear it in rooms you'll never step into. I see it on timelines you claim you don't read. But I still show up. I still work. I still turn the key on businesses that feed families. I have paid for my mistakes, with interest." Kendra's reply was quiet and deadly. "And how many times are you going to pay the same bill? You call it strength. I call it a subscription to your own suffering." Jock winced, like the words had edges. Kirk stared at the floor, then at the ceiling, like either could offer him a switch to flip time off. "Say it then," Rasheeda said, advancing half a step, voice steady. "Say what you've been dying to say since you walked on this set." Kendra didn't hesitate. "I don't want your crown. I want the castle to stop leaking. I want women who watch this show to know they don't have to swallow their pride to be seen. I want them to know a storyline isn't worth their soul." For the first time all night, a murmur rippled through the crew that wasn't about angles or light. Even the boom-op's arms lowered an inch, as if the statement had weight he needed to balance. Carly's expression flickered in that tiny way that betrays an old memory returning with teeth. Rasheeda inhaled like she'd been slapped by air. Something in her gaze shifted, not softer, not kinder, but deeper, like a door opening behind her eyes. "You think I don't want that too?" she asked, not yelling now, the room leaning forward to catch the sound. "You think I haven't begged for a different script in the quiet? You think I haven't asked for a day without fear attached to it? Don't confuse survival with surrender. I didn't bow. I endured." Kendra's jaw tightened, some answer loaded and ready, but it stayed holstered. Her eyes searched Rasheeda's, looking for a lie and finding a mirror instead. The pause was brief, a blink, an intake of breath, a missed heartbeat, and then the door slammed again. "Endured," Kendra said. "Endure is what you do to weather. This is choice." "You say that like choice is always clean," Rasheeda shot back. "Like love is paperwork, you file and stamp. Like a business plan protects you from a heart you can't evict. You call me a relic. Fine. I call myself a lighthouse. I took all that salt and still found a way to shine." "At whose expense?" Kendra asked, eyes glancing just once toward Kirk, just once toward Jock, just once toward the cameras that didn't blink. That glance landed like a gavel. Kirk's throat worked. Jock muttered, "Man." Again, the word doing nothing and everything at once. Carly folded her arms, reading the air, then delivered another match. Fans are going to pick sides. They always do. And when they pick, the family gets split open. You ready for that? Both of you. Because once this airs, there's no stuffing it back into the box. The word family moved like a wind across a wheat field. Cast crew. The people who had built rituals inside soundstages and called it a living. The people who ate together more than they ate at home. Divided. It was a big word, and everyone tried it on for size at the same time. A producer finally stepped in physically, hands up like an unarmed mediator. "We need 5, he said, voice shaking but trying to be official. "We need to cool the room. Safety check, reset lighting, please." Rasheeda didn't take her eyes off Kendra. "We can cool, after she says she understands me." Kendra didn't take her eyes off Rasheeda. "We can cool after she stops pretending pain is a personality." The producer looked at both of them, then at the ad whose pen hovered over a schedule that had started to look like fiction. The ad whispered, "We're over," and the producer said, "We're fine." In the way people do when both can be true for different definitions of the same hour. Finally, Jock stepped in closer, voice softened from command to confession. "Look at me, both of you. This is bigger than a I know the internet loves smoke, but smoke makes people choke. I'm asking you as people I love, step back, breathe. I don't want to watch y'all burn down the house to prove who paid for the bricks." Kendra's eyes flicked to him, gratitude flashing so quickly it could be mistaken for fatigue. Rasheeda blinked hard, something glassy retreating before it could spill. Then, almost in sync, both women took one step back. It wasn't peace. It was perching on the edge of war. The producer seized the opening. 5 minutes, he said, louder now, authoritative. "Clear the set. Talent, hold in green room A. Crew, new lighting plot on deck. Medic, water." Movement returned, like circulation to a limb. Cords were coiled. C-stands were nudged. Headsets crackled. The noise of industry casting a net over the noise of feeling. Carly slipped out first, phone in hand, thumbs already moving. Jock guided Kendra with a light touch at her elbow that said nothing about ownership and everything about anchoring. Kirk hovered near Rasheeda, then stayed a step back, aware that proximity and help weren't synonymous tonight. In the hallway, the air was cooler. The fluorescent hum felt almost kind. The green room door clicked shut behind Kendra and Jock. Across the corridor, another door closed after Rasheeda and Kirk. The set exhaled without them and got to work pretending it had never inhaled. Inside green room A, Kendra sat on the edge of a couch, elbows on knees, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned pale. Jock crouched in front of her, searching her face. "Talk to me," he said, quiet. "I'm fine," she answered, which was not the truth and not a lie, just a bridge sentence between explosions. "You don't have to prove a thesis in there," he said. "You don't owe nobility to people waiting for a clip." Kendra's laugh was brittle. "You think this is about nobility? This is about not letting the show teach girls that strength means swallowing glass. Then show them strength by staying whole," Jock said. "Not by fighting until you fracture." The door knocked softly. A PA slipped in 2 bottles of water, eyes avoiding eye contact like they understood intimacy was a scarce resource right now. 2 minutes, the PA whispered, then vanished. Across the hall, in the other green room, silence was louder. Rasheeda stood with her back to Kirk, one hand on the vanity, the other flat on her stomach like she was trying to calm a storm from the inside. The fluorescent lights made everything too honest. Kirk spoke first because he couldn't stand his own quiet. "I never wanted. I know I messed up, but I never wanted you to have to stand in that room and defend me." "You didn't," she said, face still to the mirror, voice sanded down to something even. "I defended myself. I always have." Kirk swallowed. "I know you think that crown is heavy because of me." She turned then, and the look she gave him was complicated enough to need pages. "I think the crown is heavy because I earned it, and because everyone expects me to carry it like it weighs nothing." He nodded, stared at the carpet, at the pattern he'd never noticed. "I'm sorry," he said. The old syllables, the familiar ones. "I know," she said, the older reply, the one that had started to taste like chalk. They stood in that tired tenderness for a beat. Then a knock, a PA's head in the door. "Water," the PA said, placing bottles on the table. "And 1 minute." Rasheeda took a slow breath, rolled her shoulders back, adjusted a cuff. "When we go back," she said, not to Kirk but to the air, to herself. "I'm going to say what I meant to say before it turned into blood." Kirk nodded. "I'll be quiet." That would help, she said, not cruel, not kind, exact. Back on set, new marks were taped down like fresh borders. The medic left cups and ice on a side table. The ad called, "Settle, please," in a tone that begged compliance from the universe itself. The producer asked for sound speed. Someone called it camera speed. Someone else called that too. "And we're back," the director said, as if the story had paused politely to wait for them. Kendra walked in first, with Jock a step behind, her spine straight enough to draw a chalk line. Rasheeda entered from the opposite side, calm pulled over her like a dress she chose on purpose. The distance between them was exact, a geometry problem you could grade. Carly hovered at the perimeter, calculating her next sentence like a stock trader eyeing a spike. The director softened his voice as if it could matter. "We're going to pick up from the conversation, but let's bring it down. Honesty over volume," he said. To everyone's shock, the suggestion landed. Kendra looked at Rasheeda and spoke without theatrics. "I meant what I said, even if the way I said it was ugly. I won't apologize for standing where I stand, but I will say this. You are not my enemy. The narrative is." Rasheeda nodded once. Not a concession but an acknowledgement. "I meant what I said to. I won't apologize for surviving. But I will say this. I don't want to teach people that survival and silence are twins." Carly opened her mouth, then closed it, then decided to carve into the quiet anyway. "So say that, both of you. Don't perform it. Say it. Otherwise, tomorrow's going to be a meme reel and a funeral for dignity." Jock's low chuckle was almost relief. For once, she's right. Rasheeda's gaze didn't leave Kendra. "I don't hate you," she said. "I hate what we become when the red light goes on. I hate that I've let it turn me into an echo of my worst day." Kendra's eyes didn't leave Rasheeda. "And I hate that I walk in ready to prosecute instead of listen. I hate that my armor makes me cruel." The words didn't mend anything, but they made a map. The crew felt it. The air released half a notch. The boom op's arms rose again. Someone at Video Village wiped at the corner of their eye and pretended dust existed indoors. The director, sensing the live wire settling into a chord, gave a small nod. "Keep going," he said. "I won't follow your script," Kendra said, softer now. "Not the one that says loyalty equals silence." "And I won't follow yours," Rasheeda answered, just as soft. "Not the one that says dignity equals departure." "Then we'll write one," Kendra said, "a challenge without poison." "Then we'll write one," Rasheeda repeated, "a promise without sugar." Carly shifted her weight, itching to quip, but chose for once to let the moment breathe. Kirk exhaled so slowly it sounded like someone closing a book. Jock looked up at the rafters like maybe the ceiling could bless the day. It wasn't resolution. It was scaffolding. And scaffolding is still a structure. From somewhere near the monitors, a voice, some brave intern, or some exhausted assistant, or some angel disguised as a tired human whispered, just loudly enough, "This is the show," and for the first time tonight, no one disagreed. The director lifted a hand, held it for a beat, dropped it gently. "Cut," he said, and the word wasn't a guillotine. It was a landing. Still, the second the word hit the air, the set broke into its usual swarm. Wardrobe stepping in, makeup blotting, sound adjusting packs, grips shifting stands. People love routine after chaos. It feels like proof the world remembers how to spin. Kendra stepped back from her mark. Rasheeda did the same. Their eyes met again. Not as combatants, not as friends, but as two people who had just learned the language for attention they'd been dragging without grammar. Neither smiled. Each nodded. Small, real. Carly slid closer to the director, voice low. "You're going to use the first half too, right?" The director stared at the timeline in his head, at the places it cracked and the places it fused. "We'll use what tells the truth," he said. Carly's lip curled. Impressed or annoyed, impossible to tell. "Truth costs," she said. "So does lying," he said, already walking toward the next call. In the corridor again, phones vibrated with texts from people who had heard from people who had heard from people that something wild had happened. The rumor mill had left the building 15 minutes ago and was already setting up shop online. The show's social team had a draft tweet typed and deleted 4 times. Learning restraint in public. The family was left divided by a fault line that would be measured in comments and calls, in whose couch people chose tomorrow. On set, the ad pointed to the schedule and circled a scene that suddenly felt impossible and necessary at once. "We'll make the day," the ad said, "because that's what ads say." The producer nodded, because that's what producers do. The crew returned to marks, because survival has choreography too. And somewhere above the hum, between a boom mic and a bank of lights, the echo of what had just happened decided how it would live. As a fight, as a breakthrough, as both. The cameras would tell one version, the people in the room would carry another, the audience would stitch a third out of clips and captions, and the hunger that keeps them clicking. Emotions ran high. Fans were shocked. And whether anyone liked it or not, the story had found its next chapter. The air on set hadn't cleared it, had only thinned, stretched tight like a string that could snap with the slightest pull. Everyone thought the break had cooled tempers. But the moment Rasheeda and Kendra stepped back into their marks, it was obvious the storm hadn't passed. It had only shifted. Cameras picked them up again, faces composed, but eyes speaking volumes the microphones couldn't. Rasheeda's chin was high, her shoulders square, her voice pitched low and steady as she spoke first. Don't mistake composure for surrender. I said what I said, and I meant every word. I built my name from grit, from blood, from mistakes I never hid, and I'll still be standing here long after you've packed up your briefcase and left this stage. Kendra inhaled slowly, tilting her head with that same lawyer's poise that drove Rasheeda crazy. And don't mistake restraint for weakness. I could dismantle every excuse you've clung to, piece by piece, until all that's left is the truth you've avoided. But I won't, because you've already done it yourself. Every time you cry on camera, every time you defend Kirk, you give the world another weapon. I don't have to fight you. You fight yourself. Crew members exchanged looks. Producers leaned forward. One whispered, "This is the money scene," while another murmured, "Or the one that breaks the show." Then, from the sidelines, Kirk cleared his throat, voice hesitant but heavy. "Can I just say something?" The room groaned collectively. Rasheeda turned her head sharply, eyes piercing. "You've said enough for a lifetime." But Kirk pressed on. "No, I need to, because I can't sit here and let y'all tear each other apart over my failures. I did the dirt. I broke the trust. And yeah, maybe Rasheeda stayed. Maybe she forgave me more than she should've. But don't you dare call her weak. Don't you dare stand there and act like loyalty makes her less. You don't know what it costs to hold a family together when the whole world wants to see it collapse." Rasheeda's lips trembled, her eyes darting away as though the words stung in their honesty. Kendra folded her arms, unimpressed. "You think that redeems her? No, it makes you feel better. It makes you the center of the story again, and that's the problem, Kirk. She's spent her life orbiting your chaos, and now she wants credit for surviving the gravity you created." The crew murmured again, whispers rising like waves. Jock ran a hand over his face, muttering, "Lord, please don't let this turn into court on camera." Rasheeda finally snapped back, her voice shaking with fury. "Stop speaking for me, Kendra. Stop acting like you know my life better than I do. Yes, Kirk hurt me. Yes, I chose to stay. But those were my choices, and they made me who I am today. Don't reduce me to his mistakes. Don't erase my strength just because it doesn't look like yours." Kendra stepped forward, closing the space between them, eyes blazing. "And stop selling pain as strength. Stop telling women watching this show that endurance is power. Because it isn't. It's a prison. And the family is left divided every time you glorify it." The words landed like a bomb, and the silence afterward felt endless. Even the director didn't call cut. Everyone just waited for the fallout. And then it came. Rasheeda let out a hollow laugh, wiping a stray tear from her cheek, her voice carrying a strange mix of pride and pain. "Maybe I am a prison, but I built it with gold bars. I turned ashes into empire. And when fans talk about this show, they talk about me. Remember that, Kendra. You may be fire, but I'm the foundation, and fire doesn't last forever." Kendra stared at her, jaw set, eyes glinting like steel. Foundations crack. Fire reshapes. In the background, Carly finally broke her silence again, clapping once, slow and mocking. "Well, congratulations. Y'all just gave the editors enough material to split the internet in half. Fans are already choosing armies in their heads. Team Rasheeda, Team Kendra. The family is officially divided." Jock's voice cut in, raw with exhaustion. "And maybe that's what scares me the most. This ain't just TV anymore. This is blood. This is bond. And once it airs, there's no going back." The cameras zoomed closer, capturing every twitch of the lips, every flicker in the eyes. The storm hadn't ended. It had only changed shape. And everyone watching, cast, crew, producers. And soon the fans knew they were standing at the edge of something that would shake the entire franchise to its core. The fight had ended on set, but it hadn't ended in spirit. The crew packed away equipment. Producers whispered about editing choices. And the cast trickled into the hallways in small clusters, all buzzing with fragments of the same storm. Nobody wanted to be the first to open Twitter, but everyone knew the clips had already leaked. Someone always leaked. Outside the studio, the Atlanta night was warm and thick. Fans had gathered at the gates, their phones glowing like tiny flashlights as they shouted names. Word had spread faster than any official press release. Hashtags were already climbing. Hashtag Team Rasheeda. Hashtag Team Kendra. Hashtag Queen or Pretender. The family was left divided, not just in the room, but across the internet, across living rooms, across group chats that lit up with disbelief. Inside a black SUV, idling near the curb, Kendra sat stiffly with Jock beside her. Her phone buzzed nonstop in her lap, notifications flooding like rain against glass. She ignored most of them until one caught her eye. A fan tweet with 10,000 likes already. Finally, someone said what needed to be said. Thank you, Kendra, for exposing the cycle. Hashtag respect. Kendra let out a slow exhale, half relief, half dread. Don't read too much, Jock said softly, glancing at her. They'll crown you tonight and crucify you tomorrow. That's how this works. Kendra shook her head. I didn't say it for them. I said it because I couldn't sit there one more second and let her dress paint up like a throne. Jock reached for her hand, but she pulled it back, resting both hands on her knees, staring straight ahead. I know you meant well, he said, but you didn't just go at Rasheeda. You went at everything she's built. She's got fans who'd bleed for her. And now you've drawn blood. Across town, in another SUV, Rasheeda sat with Kirk. Her phone, too, wouldn't stop buzzing. But the messages were mixed. A battlefield of love and hate. Rasheeda is the backbone. Always has been, one post declared. Another cut just as sharply. Queen. Nah, she's the problem. Kendra was right. She scrolled faster, her jaw tight, her eyes wet. Kirk tried to reach for her phone, murmuring, "Don't look at that right now." She pulled it back, her voice sharp. Why not? I lived my whole life out loud. I'm not about to hide now. He sighed, leaning back, eyes on the passing streetlights. Because it's poison. And you've swallowed enough of that already. Her laugh was brittle, hollow. You gave me most of it. Silence filled the car. By midnight, blogs had published grainy clips. Fan pages had uploaded subtitled edits, and Instagram lives buzzed with theories. Fans were shocked. Some praised Kendra for breaking the cycle, others defended Rasheeda as the true heart of the franchise. Memes spread like wildfire, split-screen photos of the two women mid-L, captions like Queen versus Queen and look. The fight wasn't just a scene anymore, it was a cultural moment. The next morning, the cast group chat was chaos. Messages flew so fast the bubbles overlapped. Carly had sent links to every article, stirring the pot with comments like "Told y'all." Jock begged for calm, typing, "We gotta talk like family before this breaks us for real." Kirk hadn't typed anything at all. Rasheeda wrote only 3 words. "I stand tall." Kendra replied with 3 of her own. "So do I." By noon, MTV executives were on emergency calls. "This is nuclear," one producer said. "We can't air all of it raw. But if we cut too much, fans will know. They've already seen leaks." Another voice chimed in. "Do you realize the numbers this could pull? This could be the biggest episode in years." The debate wasn't about whether to air it. It was about how much chaos to feed the audience without breaking the cast beyond repair. Meanwhile, fans lined up outside Frost Bistro, hoping to catch Rasheeda's reaction in person. Others flooded Kendra's law office page with both praise and hate, reviews reading more like manifestos than client testimonials. The fallout was spilling beyond TV, beyond gossip blogs. Real businesses, real reputations, real families were feeling the cracks. That evening, Rasheeda went live on Instagram. Her face was bare, her voice steady but soft. "Y'all saw what happened," she began. "I'm not here to drag nobody. I'm not here to throw shade. I just want to say, I'm human. I've made choices, I've lived with pain, and I've kept moving. You don't have to agree with me, but you won't erase me. I love y'all for riding with me all these years. That's all." The comments flooded in faster than she could read. Hearts, crowns, applause, emojis, but also daggers, rolling eyes, demands that she admit Kendra was right. The live ended after 10 minutes, but the ripples continued. Hours later, Kendra went live too, her tone cooler, measured, her words deliberate. "I know some of you think I disrespected a legend. I didn't. I respect Rasheeda. I respect her hustle. But respect doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean applauding suffering like it's strength. I said what I said because somebody needed to. If that makes me the villain, fine. But I'd rather be a villain with integrity than a queen without it." The fan base split deeper. Emotions ran high. The family was left divided. In a dim conference room back at the studio, producers sat around a long table, exhaustion etched into their faces. "We're sitting on a grenade," one said. "But grenades get views." Another leaned forward, whispering, The problem is grenades also kill. And as night fell again, both women sat in their respective homes. Phones buzzing, hearts racing, wondering what would come next. The war wasn't over. It had only begun to move off the set and into every corner of their lives. The storm rolled into its second night, no longer confined to the studio or the cars that carried the cast home. It was everywhere now. Every blog headline screamed about it. Every fan podcast dissected it. Every Twitter thread spun new theories about alliances and betrayals. The fight had outgrown the episode it was supposed to belong to. It had become its own saga. Rasheeda woke early, phone buzzing on the nightstand before the sun had even risen. She groaned, reached for it, and saw a text from her mother. "Baby, don't let them break you. You've been through worse. But don't let that girl talk to you like she's above you. You hear me? You remind them who you are." Tears stung the corners of her eyes, but she pushed them back. She typed only, "I know, Mama. I will." Across the city, Kendra sat at her kitchen island, scrolling through her mentions with a cup of black coffee untouched beside her. Jock paced in the living room, muttering under his breath, "This is crazy. They got people writing essays about you, like you're running for office." Kendra didn't look up. Maybe they should. Maybe it's about time someone said it plain. Jock shook his head, frustrated. "Yeah, but they're not all cheering. Some of them are coming for your throat. They love Rasheeda. You can't win that kind of war." She finally set the phone down and met his eyes. "I didn't start a war with her. I started a war with the idea that silence is strength. If she feels hit, that's on her." By noon, the executives had made their decision. A reunion special would be rushed into production, not weeks from now, but days. The fight was too big to wait for an episode rollout. "We need them in the same room again," one exec said, tapping the table. "Uncut, unfiltered. No scripts. This is the moment to pull numbers. If they're divided, let them divide on camera." The producers shifted uncomfortably, knowing what that meant: fire in a gas tank, but nodded anyway. The orders were clear. The calls went out that afternoon. Both women were summoned. Both hesitated. Rasheeda confided in Kirk that night, "I can't keep doing this. Not like this. They don't want healing. They want spectacle. They want me broken so they can sell it." Kirk placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice quiet. "Then don't break. Stand tall like you always do. Give them the spectacle, but on your terms." She gave him a long look, unreadable, before nodding slowly. At the same time, Jock tried to soften the blow for Kendra. "You don't owe them another round," he said. "You don't gotta walk into that lion's den." But Kendra was resolute. "If I don't go, they'll call me a coward. If I do go, at least I get to finish what I started." Jock rubbed the back of his neck, muttering, "Or light the whole damn set on fire." Kendra gave him a thin smile. Maybe fire is what it needs. The night before the reunion taping, social media was a battlefield. Hashtags piled on hashtags. Edits of the fight went viral. Even celebrities chimed in. One reality star tweeted, "I don't even watch H like that, but whoever that Kendra girl is." Finally someone said what needed to be said. Another replied, "Nah, Rasheeda, been the queen too long. Y'all better put respect on her name." The fans weren't just divided. They were at war. When taping day came, the studio was ringed with extra security. Inside, the set was dressed like a battlefield disguised as a reunion stage. Plush couches, glittering backdrops, but tension you could taste. The host sat ready, cards in hand, smile sharp enough to cut glass. Rasheeda walked out first, dressed in a sleek black suit that screamed authority. The audience erupted, half cheers, half boos. She didn't flinch. She sat, crossed her legs, and waited. Minutes later, Kendra entered in a blazing red dress, her expression calm, her posture commanding. The crowd roared again, split straight down the middle. The host wasted no time. "Ladies, the world saw what happened on set. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. The family is left divided. Tonight, you get to speak directly not just to each other, but to everyone watching. So let's start here. Rasheeda, what was going through your mind that night?" Rasheeda leaned into the mic, her voice even but laced with fire. "I was tired. Tired of being disrespected. Tired of being told my life is a joke. I've taken more blows than most, but I still stand tall. So when Kendra came at me, I wasn't about to bow. I defended my name. I defended my journey. That's what was going through my mind." The crowd erupted in applause, her supporters loud and loyal. The host turned. "Kendra, your response." Kendra folded her hands in her lap, her tone sharp but measured. "My response is simple. I didn't come here to disrespect Rasheeda. I came here to tell the truth. Too many women are watching these shows, thinking survival means suffering, that love means swallowing betrayal. I said what I said because I won't let silence sell anymore. If that makes me the villain, so be it. Her side of the crowd screamed, clapping, chanting her name. Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. Don't twist this into a women's rights speech, Kendra. This was about you trying to come for me, trying to snatch my crown. Kendra snapped back instantly. I don't want your crown. I want people to stop worshipping crowns built on pain. The audience gasped, shouted, clapped, booed. The host raised his hands, trying to restore order. But the women were already leaning toward each other, their voices rising over the din. You don't get to erase me, Rasheeda shouted. And you don't get to rewrite strength. Kendra fired back. The host jumped in quickly, sensing the set teetering toward chaos. Ladies, hold on. Kirk, Jock, you've been sitting silent. What do you say to this divide? Jock leaned forward, his face weary, his voice low. I say, this ain't just a show anymore. This is blood. And blood spilling in front of cameras don't heal easy. We're supposed to be family. But right now, it feels like family's breaking in half. Kirk, eyes on the floor, added, I caused enough damage in my own marriage. I don't want to see y'all repeat it. But I also know, once something's broken on this stage, it don't always get fixed. The tension thickened again. Rasheeda wiped a tear, furious at herself for letting it fall. Kendra stiffened, refusing to blink. The crowd roared louder, feeding on the spectacle. And in that roar, one truth rang clear. This wasn't ending tonight. This was only the beginning of a war that would define them both. The reunion stage was no longer just a set. It had become a courtroom, a boxing ring, and a church altar all in one. The host shuffled his cue cards nervously, trying to corral the chaos while the audience leaned forward in their seats, phones up, recording every flicker of expression. Rasheeda and Kendra sat stiffly, shoulders squared, voices sharpened like knives. Every word was ammunition, every pause, a battlefield silence. You say you don't want my crown, Rasheeda said, leaning forward, her voice trembling with both rage and conviction. But the second you walked on this stage, the second you came into my world, you made me your target. Don't play coy now. You came for me. And when you come for me, you better come prepared to stand in the fire. Kendra didn't flinch. She met Rasheeda's gaze with unbroken intensity. I came with truth. I came with integrity. I didn't come to steal your shine. I came to tell women they don't need to repeat your story to be seen as strong. If that offends you, maybe it's because you see yourself in the mirror. I held up. The audience roared, half clapping, half booing. Someone shouted, Team Rasheeda forever. While another screamed, Kendra said what she said. The sound was deafening. The host raised his voice. Ladies, let's keep it civil. But he was drowned out instantly by the women's overlapping voices. Civil, Rasheeda snapped. You think my life has been civil? You think standing by a man who dragged me through public humiliation is civil? No, it's war. And I survived that war. That's why I'm still here. That's why I'll always be here. Kendra fired back. And I'm telling you, survival isn't the only story. Endurance doesn't have to be the crown. Women deserve more than that. Women deserve choice. The words hung in the air like thunder before lightning. Then, unexpectedly, another voice cut in. Carly Red, who had been quiet since the cameras started rolling, suddenly leaned forward with a sly smile. You know what I see, she said, her tone dripping with mischief. I see two women fighting over who's right while forgetting that both of y'all wrong. Gasps filled the room. The host froze, turning sharply toward her. Carly, are you saying I'm saying this? Carly interrupted, her voice rising. Rasheeda, you've been milking the same storyline for years. Crying, forgiving, repeating. People love you, yes, but they also pity you. And Kendra, don't act like you're above the game. You came on this show knowing exactly what it was. You wanted that spotlight? You wanted to stand out. So you poked the queen. Don't act like it was some holy crusade. It was ambition. The room erupted. Shouts, screams, applause, boos, every reaction overlapped into pure chaos. Carly sat back, crossing her legs, satisfied with the grenade she had just tossed into the middle of the war. Rasheeda's face turned red. Carly, you're one to talk about ambition. You flip sides more than a pancake on Sunday morning. Don't sit there and judge me when your whole brand is betrayal. Kendra's head snapped toward Carly too. And don't come for me either. You live for mess. You thrive on stirring the pot. So don't pretend you're the voice of reason now. The host raised his hands, desperate. Ladies, please, but it was too late. The reunion stage had transformed into pandemonium. Audience members shouted louder. Security shifted nervously. Producers whispered frantically into earpieces. And then it happened. Carly stood, pointing between them both. You want truth? Here's the truth. Both of you are addicted to the drama. Both of you need it. Without it, this show, this franchise, this empire you'd crumble. You want fans to think you're martyrs, but really, you're performers. Every tear, every scream, every fight, it's all currency. And you spend it gladly. A hush fell, as if the world inhaled at once. The audience gawked. Rasheeda froze, her mouth slightly open. Kendra blinked hard, thrown off for the first time, and the host leaned forward, smelling blood. That's a heavy accusation. Carly, are you saying none of this is real? Carly smirked. Oh, it's real. The pain is real. The betrayal is real. But the performance? The way y'all serve it up for cameras. That's the addiction. And fans eat it up. The crowd erupted again. Chants starting half shouting Rasheeda's name, half Kendra's. The divide was no longer a line. It was a canyon. Rasheeda finally stood, her voice booming above the roar. You want to call me a performer? Fine. I'll perform my truth every damn day if I have to, because my truth is messy. My truth is painful. But it's mine, and I won't apologize for surviving it. Kendra stood too, fire blazing in her eyes. And I won't apologize for calling out the cycle. I won't apologize for refusing to glamorize pain. If that makes me the villain, then so be it. Security edged closer, ready in case the shouting turned physical. The host scrambled to regain control, shouting into his mic, "Ladies, this is bigger than both of you. The fans are watching, the family is watching, the world is watching." But neither woman backed down. The cameras zoomed tight on their faces, catching every flicker of fury, every glint of defiance. Offstage, producers whispered feverishly, "This is it. This is the season-defining moment. Maybe even we let it play." And so they did. The reunion raged on. Every word another brick in the wall, dividing the family. Fans online exploded with reactions in real time. Twitter threads stretched for miles. Instagram lives replayed the fight. Facebook groups posted theories, memes, breakdowns. Fans were shocked. Emotions ran high. The family was left divided. But one question lingered louder than all the noise. Could this franchise survive the war between Rasheeda and Kendra? Or would it finally collapse under the weight of its own chaos? The reunion didn't end so much as it ran out of air. The host called a break. The audience buzzed in delirious little swarms. And security formed a soft wall as if you could keep a story from spreading by blocking a hallway. Carly drifted off stage like a cat who'd knocked a vase and wanted credit for the music. Kendra and Rasheeda were escorted to opposite green rooms again. Both moving like runners who'd crossed a line only to see the track stretch on ahead of them. In the corridor, producers argued in whispers that sounded like lightning. "We can't cut that," one said. "If we cut that, the internet calls us liars." Another voice pushed back. "If we leave it, we burn goodwill with both camps." A third voice, the tired sound of someone who had lived too long in edit bays, said, "Truth isn't a camp. It's a timeline. We air the line." In Green Room B, Rasheeda sat at the vanity without touching the brushes or powders. Her reflection looked back with a steadiness she had forged over years of learning how to breathe under weight. Kirk stood at a thoughtful distance, hands in his pockets, eyes low. Finally, he tried. "You were strong out there." She didn't look at him. "I was loud," she said, plain. "You were clear," he said, gentler. "I was cornered," she answered, and the room fell back into quiet. Across the hall, Kendra stretched her fingers like a pianist about to take a stage. Jock stood by the door, face tilted toward the ceiling, counting seams in the acoustic tile. "You held your line," he said. "I held my ground," she corrected, almost a smile. "There's a difference." "How you feel?" he asked. She searched for a word, settled on, unmoved, then added, "and moved," in the same breath. The admission, small and real. The knock came 5 minutes. Then, a second knock, change of plan. The host wanted a final segment to sit down without couches, just stools, closer, tighter, to mics. One question. The idea made producers nervous and ratings people hungry. It made the women say yes, because neither of them knew how to do almost. The stage had been reset in the time it takes choices to harden. 2 stools. A small circle of light. The audience pulled in. Edges dimmed. The host stepped back, voice low. "No cards. One prompt. Answer each other. Not me. Say something you won't regret," replaying at 3 a.m. The sound of the room shifted. Even phones lowered a little. Rasheeda spoke first. "What does winning look like to you?" Kendra didn't rush. "A life you don't have to defend," she said. "A love you don't have to excuse. Work that doesn't require your tears to be profitable. And if you cry anyway," Rasheeda asked, If you cry because you're human, then you cry, Kendra said. But you don't build a stage around it. Maybe I didn't build it, Rasheeda said softly. Maybe I just refused to leave it. Kendra's eyes flickered. Maybe that refusal saved you, she admitted. And maybe it taught some people the wrong lesson. Both can be true. A murmur, the kind that means a room has felt something honest. The host stayed quiet. This was better than any card he had. What does winning look like to you? Kendra asked back. Peace, Rasheeda said. Not applause. Not crowns. Not trending. Peace that doesn't need permission. Does this give you peace? Kendra asked. Not unkind. Not tonight, Rasheeda said. But maybe telling the truth does tomorrow. The audience stayed still, the way people do in churches between hymn and benediction. The host stepped in only to say, cut. And it landed like a bow on a violin string, soft, sustained, finished enough to breathe. Outside, night swallowed the lot. The cast filtered out, wrapped in hoodies and thought. The crowd at the gates had thinned, but the internet hadn't slept. Clips were already spliced into captions framed the same sentence a dozen ways. Fans were shocked all over again, even if they'd watched it live in the room. Back home, Rasheeda set her phone face down and left it there. The rarest act of power. She made tea she wouldn't drink, stood in the kitchen while the kettle cooled, and let the silence be a companion instead of a threat. When she finally picked up the phone, it wasn't to scroll. It was to text her mother. 3 words that felt like a door. I'm still here. Kendra sat cross-legged on her living room rug, laptop open but ignored, a stack of legal pads nearby like muscle memory. She wrote one sentence on the top page, I will not apologize for clarity. Then put the cap on the pen and turned off the lamp. Jock watched her from the doorway, the quiet kind where men figure out how to stand close without casting shadows. You coming to bed? He asked. In a minute, she said, which meant more than time. The next morning, the numbers came in. The network lit up in emails with subject lines that looked like fireworks. Biggest spike in years. Social engagement, off the charts. Reunion PT, 1 trending in 13 countries. The congratulatory notes came with caveats disguised as compliments. Powerful, but volatile. Brave, but polarizing. Raw, but risky. The words meant the same thing. Keep doing it, just make sure it doesn't blow up the building. The building had already cracked. You could feel it in small ways. A stylist canceled a standing appointment to avoid choosing a side. A line producer hesitated before booking a location owned by someone who'd posted a long thread, calling Kendra a culture vulture and Rasheeda a monarch of misery. A brand partner sent a carefully neutral note about monitoring sentiment. The family was left divided, not just online, but in the plumbing of their livelihoods. By midweek, the network floated a new idea, a post-reunion sit-down. Offset off-rails small room. No audience, just a moderator and 2 chairs. The pitch framed it as healing. The budget framed it as a spin-off. The women said yes, again, because there is something about a wound that believes in the next bandage. The room they chose was a quiet studio with windows that caught late light like mercy. The moderator was soft-voiced and steel-spined, the kind of person who asked a question like setting down glass and didn't flinch if it shattered. 2 chairs, not facing each other directly, but angled, like both honesty and exit were possible. The first half hour was air and ground rules. The second was story and suture. The third was the thing that changed the arc. The moderator asked, when did you first feel threatened by her? The you was left for them to assign. Threatened isn't the word, Rasheeda said. Seen is the word. She saw the parts I'd trained cameras to skim. Kendra nodded slowly. And I felt dismissed, she said, like my stance was treated as vanity instead of boundary. Did I dismiss you? Rasheeda asked. Plain. You dismissed the premise, Kendra said, which made me feel invisible. I'm sorry, Rasheeda said, and she didn't put sugar on it. I'm sorry I made my case like a closing argument, Kendra said. A heart is not a witness. They breathed. The moderator let the quiet do work. And then the door opened, to a twist no one scripted. The network rep, pale and urgent, slipped in and handed the moderator a phone with a message already queued. A leaked audio clip. Grainy, clearly recorded in a dark corner of some meeting after the first reunion segment. In it, a junior producer could be heard bragging at a bar about how turning up the thermostat on the set had been a genius play, moving marks closer, cueing questions sharper, telling Carly in her earpiece to poke the bear, then smile. The moderator listened, eyes narrowing. The women watched the moderator's face change and felt the old burn of manipulation mixing with the new burn of exposure. The moderator held the phone out. You should both hear this, they said. They listened. The room shrank. The window light felt like a witness. So we were steered, Kendra said, voice flat, not a question. We were baited, Rasheeda said. Also flat, both can be true. The moderator said, you brought your truth. They built a maze around it, for the first time since the first spark. The women turned at the same angle toward the same thing, the system instead of each other. Not teammates, not friends, but not opponents either. Something else. Something that made the air rearrange. I'm tired of being the bonfire, Rasheeda said. I'm tired of being the extinguisher, Kendra said. Then stop playing those roles. The moderator offered. What would you be instead? A door, Rasheeda said after a moment. To something softer. A wall, Kendra said. Around what matters. They almost smiled at the symmetry. The network rep whispered from the corner. We should pause production, but the moderator shook their head. We should keep rolling, they said. This is the actual conversation. So they kept rolling. The next hour was not fireworks. It was architecture. They talked process, what boundaries look like on sets that reward breach. They talked language, how to say no without a backlash edit turning it into diva. They talked duty, what they owe the women watching who are building their own definitions of strong. They did not become friends. They became clear. When the sit-down ended, the moderator asked for any last words to each other. Not as a finale, but as a compass. I won't try to fix you, Kendra said. That was arrogance pretending to be advocacy. I won't perform my pain for you, Rasheeda said. That was habit pretending to be honesty. I will call you if I feel unseen, Kendra said. I will listen if you call, Rasheeda said. They stood. They didn't hug. They didn't post. They left the room walking in parallel, which looked a lot like progress from the angle of a camera that had learned patience. The episode aired a week later in 2 parts. The reunion and the room. The edit didn't sand down the splinters. It kept the first eruption intact, then let the second conversation hold it without smothering it. Fans were shocked again, but for different reasons. Some cried in comments they would have turned into combat the week before. Some doubled down on teams because identity is warm. Some said nothing and just watched their own living rooms with new eyes. Brands that had hovered on the fence sent careful emails that sounded like they wanted to be brave and not punished for it. A foundation reached out about a panel on boundaries in storytelling. A college class asked for permission to screen the room as a case study in narrative ethics. The network billed it as bold. The cast called it necessary. Both statements were true and insufficient. Inside the machine, small things moved. Earpiece became optional. Question lists were shared earlier. Green rooms got locks that only the person inside could buzz open. A junior producer was reprimanded, then reassigned. A senior one took responsibility on paper, and in a meeting where no phones were allowed. None of that fixed the past. All of it adjusted the future by degrees you could feel if you'd carried the weight. In their separate spaces, the women kept living. Rasheeda showed up at Frost Bistro and laughed with regulars in a way that didn't feel like defense. She filmed a scene at the boutique where she talked to a young assistant about negotiating rate without apology. She went live exactly once, for exactly 5 minutes, to say, I'm working. I'm loving my people. I'm watering my peace. She turned the comments off. Kendra took 2 clients she would have referred out last month, sat with them longer than billable hours asked, and wrote a list called non-negotiables that she taped inside a notebook instead of posting. She skipped 1 Twitter thread she would have torched for sport. She learned how to close a tab and keep a boundary open. Carly did what Carly does. She kept the pot simmering, but she also sent both women a text that said, in her tone, and no one else's, y'all did something out there. The message was both olive and matchstick. They read it, didn't reply, and still understood it had a kind of respect in it. The franchise didn't collapse. It shifted. Storylines stretched into conversations instead of collisions every episode. There were still fights. This is television and also life, but some of them had exit ramps. Sometimes the ramps were taken. Sometimes they weren't. Ratings stayed high enough for accountants to smile and low enough for cynics to grumble. That balance is called television. Months later, on a night that wasn't taped, the 2 women ended up in the same charity gala ballroom. The lighting was kind. The music was old R&B. An auntie figure from the city gave a short speech about building bridges with patience and nails. People mingled. People pretended not to watch them. They didn't approach each other for an hour. Then the orbit tightened. They met near a table of lemon bars and tiny forks that no one used. No cameras, no mics, no producers, no host. Just 2 women who had become archetypes against their will and then authors on purpose. You look peaceful, Kendra said. You look whole, Rasheeda answered. Maybe we both look like we kept a promise, Kendra said. Maybe we both did, Rasheeda agreed. They didn't rehash. They didn't predict. They nodded like neighbors who'd shoveled the same storm from different driveways and decided to wave instead of compare piles. It wasn't friendship, it was weathered grace. Outside, Atlanta hummed its night song. Inside, people danced. Online, the clips of that early war were still pinned to 1,000 timelines, because the internet is a museum with broken alarms. But new clips lived beside them now. The quiet room, the questions with room to land, the sentences that didn't sell anyone out. Fans were still shocked sometimes, because surprise is the first cousin of growth. Emotions still ran high, because feeling is a sport people practice in groups. The family was still divided in places, but there were footbridges across the split where there had been only echoes. And when the next season's teaser finally dropped, 30 seconds, no yelling, just a montage of work, love, boundary, and one look exchanged across a table that said more than a monologue, the comments filled with a new kind of noise. Less war cry, more watchful hope. Fewer crowns, more compasses. Somebody wrote, maybe this is what winning looks like. And for once, the timeline didn't argue with itself about that. It just watched. And waited. And made space for the next chapter to be written in something stronger than volume. And now, to close this roller coaster of chaos, betrayal, and raw emotion, let's talk directly to you, the viewers, the fans, the heartbeat of this story. What you've just witnessed wasn't just another argument on a reality show. It was deeper, sharper, and more human than anyone expected. You saw Rasheeda fighting to defend her legacy, her choices, and the pain she turned into power. You saw Kendra standing tall, refusing to bow to a narrative she believes traps women in cycles of silence. And you saw how one confrontation split not just the cast, but the entire family of fans watching around the world. The question now isn't about who shouted louder, or who looked stronger under the hot lights. The question is, whose truth do you believe? Was Rasheeda right to call herself the foundation, the queen who has carried this franchise for years, no matter the scars? Or was Kendra right to call out the idea that endurance should never be confused with empowerment? Both women bled honesty tonight, both stood their ground, and both left us with questions that won't be answered in one episode, one reunion, or even one season. Fans are already divided. Social media is ablaze, and emotions are running higher than ever. But now it's your turn. You hold the power to decide how this story continues. Are you hashtag Team Rasheeda, riding with the queen who has weathered every storm? Or are you hashtag Team Kendra, standing with the challenger who refuses to let silence sell his strength? Maybe you're somewhere in between, just stunned by how raw and real this moment was. Wherever you stand, we want to hear from you. So here's the call. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us who you side with, who you think crossed the line, and who you believe deserves the crown, not just of the show, but of the conversation. Don't just watch, be part of the debate. And if you're shocked, if you're moved, if you're screaming at the screen right now, hit that like button so we know you're with us. Subscribe if you want every update, every behind-the-scenes twist, and every explosive moment delivered straight to you. And share this video with your friends, because trust me, this is the fight everyone will be talking about tomorrow. This isn't just television anymore. This is history for love and hip-hop, Atlanta, and history, as you just saw, isn't quiet. It's raw, it's messy, and it's unforgettable. So join us in the comments, claim your side, and let the world know where you stand. Because this story, it's just getting started.